Recently, I came across a young man standing out in front of the post office with a poster of um, President Obama with a Hitler mustache. Online on YouTube, I've encountered a number of individuals who are trying to claim that the Nazis were really a left-wing movement. After all, it's got the word socialist in it. National Socialist Party. I don't know. This just flies in the face of everything I ever heard. It seems to me the Nazis were really big on rounding up communists and trade unionists along with Jews and homosexuals. Hardly sounds very left wing to me. Anyway, so I got online, decided I would do some research, find out just what constituted fascism. It's a name that's thrown around quite a bit and without too much explanation. And I came across this essay by a guy named Lawrence Britt called The 14 Defining Characteristics of Fascism. Digging a little deeper, I sort of find out this guy has acquired some credentials that he's probably not doesn't have a right to hold. He's referred to a lot as Dr. Lawrence Britt, and it's even been bandied about that he's a social scientist. I think it's safe to say he has written a couple of novels, and he used to be some executive in a corporate executive. But he is a left-wing sort of fellow. But anyway, the people on the right, people like Limbaugh and Beck and Savage and all the rest of them, have never been too exact about anybody's credentials. They have all kinds of people out there spouting off like they know something, who are essentially nobodies. Doesn't seem to bother them at all that somebody might just be making stuff up. So, in fairness, why should I? Anyway, this is my little take on the 14 defining characteristics of fascism. Think about it. Republicans are about the most nationalistic people on the face of the planet. They walk around with their flag pins, their flags on the back of their pickup trucks. If you ask them what the greatest country in the world is, why, it's the USA. And if you criticize the USA, well, you can just get the hell out. Love it or leave it. Love it unquestionably. And nationalism, when you rearrange the letters, spells Republicans. The Republicans talk a lot about liberty, but what that actually means is sort of questionable. The Republicans are not interested in letting people live their lives the way they want to. They're not interested in people being able to control their birth rate. They're not interested in people being able to enjoy their sexuality any way they want. They're really not interested in extending human rights, legal right protection to any more people than they can possibly, limit it to. They resisted the extension of rights to women. They are fighting tooth and nail to prevent, a gay marriage from becoming a legal institution, extending the rights of marriage to gay people. Internationally, they have dug in their heels. They have kept us out of almost any treaty that extends human rights beyond the bare minimum. Dick Cheney and his whole thing of waterboarding people probably would be considered torture by most of the rest of the world. And I have very little doubt that if old Dick took a vacation to Spain tomorrow, he might very well be arrested and put on trial as a war criminal. The Republicans have no interest whatsoever in human rights. Scapegoats. Seems like every fascist regime has to have them. Most frequently in Europe, it was the Jews. Here in America, however, the Jews represent a fairly wealthy, powerful class of people. They make a lot of campaign contributions, and nobody wants to monkey with them. And besides, we've got, in the old days, well, we had black people. Now, that's been supplanted by Mexicans. If you ain't got a job, it's because those damn Mexicans have taken it away. You know, all the ills of the working class are due to Mexicans. Mexicans are an easy target. They're basically poor. They have very little access to the legal system because they're poor, often because they don't speak English very well and it's just not in their culture. It's easy to beat up on them. So the Republicans make all these wild claims that the problem is Mexicans, and they offer a bunch of ridiculous solutions, like they're going to round them all up, 12 million people, round them up and ship them back to Mexico. It was a difficult thing for the Nazis to ship 6 to 8 million people off to the death camps. It took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of trains. I can only imagine what kind of effort would be required to move 12 million people out of the United States and back to Mexico. But it makes a good talking point, gets people all riled up, gets the mob all riled up. Like I say, you know, fascists need their scapegoats. Rampant militarism. If you talk to any Republican, he'll go on and on about slashing the budget and controlling spending. But if you talk to the Republican about reducing the budget of the Defense Department, they'll dig in their heels. No, there's no way we can do that. What I meant is reducing the budget for poor people, for benefits, for the weak and the poor and the old. They're the ones that need to have their budgets reduced. The generals, they need every bit of support that we can give them. Of course, support of the military, it's a time-sensitive thing. When some guy's getting recruited and equipped and shipped off to some butthole to shoot at people, we're all in support. Of course, once he gets back here to the States and gets decommissioned and they find out that he's got PTSD or some other combat-related mental disorder, story changes. Now he's a member of the group of people who are going to get government benefits for the rest of his life. He's going to be a leech on society. Well, then, right here in Washington, Madigan Hospital, a famous military hospital, was busted because they were changing people's diagnosis from PTSD to some pre-existing condition so they wouldn't have to pay to treat them. That's a support of the military that the Republicans like to see. If you're active military, you get everything. Once you're out of the military, you get to stand by the side of the road and beg for spare change. Rampant sexism. The Nazis were very clear that a woman's place was in the home, being pregnant all the time, raising up the new generation of Nazis. The Republicans seem to be pretty much of the same opinion, even the women ones. Every time any kind of legislation goes through the Congress these days, there's always a Republican trying to tack on an amendment to end birth control and abortion and any kind of funding of Planned Parenthood. All these things which have largely contributed to and made it possible for women to go out and get jobs and be independent. Republicans are dead set against anything like that. It's one of the endless talking points of the right is that we are afflicted by a liberal-controlled left-wing media. And like so many things the right says, it's just one of those lies that if you repeat it over and over and over again, somebody might actually believe you. The media is definitely controlled by the right wing, in my opinion. Look at Rupert Murdoch. He's certainly a champion of small government, no regulations, very conservative guy. He owns the Wall Street Journal. He owns Fox News, which is really just a propaganda arm of the Republican Party. And there are many more examples of this covered much more extensively and much more convincingly by Noam Chomsky. Just watch his movie, Manufacturing Consent. It's all about how big corporations, right-wing people control the media of this country. Since 9/11, and actually long before it, national security has been a major obsession of the Republican Party. After 9/11, the Republicans during the George Bush administration used 9/11 as an excuse to start a couple of wars, a way to pass legislation that took away a huge block of civil liberties with the Patriot Act, established the Department of Homeland Security, which greatly increased the size of government and the number of government employees. All moves which the Republicans, they all talk about small government and small budgets, but when it comes right down to it, they spend money like a bunch of drunken sailors. But I think it's safe to say that national security it's a big topic for Republicans. Separation of church and state is one of the fundamental principles that the United States is based on. And the right wing is constantly trying to undermine it. They're trying to get prayer in public schools. They want to get Christian religious references in public documents. They want to use public facilities for religious practices. They're constantly rattling around trying to get basically Christian theology into government. Listen to any Rick Santorum speech. He'll certainly have the Pope dictating policy for us. Michelle Bachmann, she wanted to replace English common law, the basis of the American legal system, with biblical law. And if you look into biblical law at all, you'll see that it looks pretty much like Sharia law. And both of them are little more than some kind of medieval hocus pocus. Hardly anything to base a modern civilized society on. The right wing is definitely, they want to make this into a theocracy. It'll look just like Iran, except it'll be Christian. Oh, that's reassuring. Since the end of the Civil War, corporations in America have spent probably billions of dollars by this point trying to alter the legal structure, giving themselves more power, giving themselves more freedom, protecting themselves from any kind of regulation. They have sort of achieved some final triumph here recently with the Citizens United Supreme Court decision, which essentially says that corporations are legally people and have all the rights of people. Interestingly enough, they have none of the obligations of people. If I kill somebody, I can be brought up on murder charges. But a corporation can kill millions of people, and maybe they'll have to pay a fine, but nobody's going to go to the electric chair. Nobody's going to get hung. It's a completely, and with Citizens United, now corporations can spend as much money as they want. There's absolutely no restriction on their ability to further change the legal structure under which they operate through huge campaign contributions to legislators so that the legal system of the United States will favor them even more egregiously than it does already. Scott Walker, Wisconsin, legislating away collective bargaining rights. Hey, it's the Republican dream. They've been trying to do it for years. Now they've got the excuse of unbalanced budgets and a financial disaster, largely Republican creation, to drive legislation through to end bargaining rights, break up unions. I've never spoken to a Republican in my life who favored unions. It's perfectly all right for corporations to collude and get together in business organizations, but working class people try to get together and make life better for themselves. It's a fucking communist plot. Of course, the Republicans have disdain for intellectuals and for the arts. Their whole program is based on superstitious nonsense. They don't want somebody bringing out statistics showing them that trickle-down economics is nonsense, showing them that supply-side economics is crap, that there is no big daddy in the sky, that praying to balance the budget is pretty much equal to doing nothing to balance the budget. They don't want any of this. Half of them don't even believe in science. They think the world's 4,000 years old. Of course they're going to hate intellectuals. I think education will definitely suffer if they get into power. On the arts side, well, there's no totalitarian regime in the world ever that has supported artists. Why? Because artists tell it like they see it. Art is about truth. And when you're running an ugly, hate-based scam on everybody, fear-based, you don't want somebody poking fun at you. You don't want somebody pointing out that the emperor has no clothes. If the Republicans get into the power, again, art will suffer. They've tried to dismantle the National Endowment for the Arts repeatedly. They try to defund National Public Radio regularly. Jeez. And the only thing I would say is there are very few civilizations ever that are remembered because of their politics. Civilizations are remembered because of their art. And when the Republicans succeed in stamping out all the art, all the original heartfelt art in this country, we'll be done. We'll just, as a civilization, we will be a footnote in history. Anyway, here we are in the land of the free, yet we have more people per capita in prison than any place else, including Red China, including Russia, including South Africa. Yeah, wonderful. Under the Bush administration, your qualifications basically was how much money you had given towards the Bush re-election campaign and whether you knew him or not. The whole BP oil disaster basically stems from Bush replacing qualified oil industry regulators with the good old boys he had drilled for oil with back in West Texas. They just figured that everything would be okay if they just let all their friends, do whatever they do without too much government interference. And so we ended up with the Gulf of Mexico looking like a cesspool. Billions of jobs, billions of dollars worth of economic loss to shrimpers and fishermen and anybody that depended on the Gulf of Mexico to make a living. All because, the Republicans would rather have their friends in power than somebody who's competent in power. If Romney gets to be president, watch and see how many people in his cabinet are Mormons. I bet you'll be surprised. The most fraudulent election we've probably experienced in our lifetime was George Bush's second election, which essentially was decided by a conservative Supreme Court, which had been packed by people Bush had put on the court. The Republicans to this day spend a huge amount of time trying to restrict the electorate. They're behind all these laws to limit voting, to make it very difficult for people to vote, particularly racial groups and classes of people that they don't think are going to vote Republican. The last thing Republicans want is a straight up fair election, because they know that most of the country is not rich and white. Most of the country is beige and poor. And if it comes right down to a head-to-head match, one man, one vote, they will lose. And that'll be the end of them. So fraud is the only tool Republicans have. And believe me, they will use it. So there you go, folks. That's the 14 characteristics of fascist regimes, and a little comment on the policies of the Republican Party. Are the Republicans the new fascists in America? Well, truthfully, I don't know. But I have to say, it disturbs me. I hope it disturbs you too. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.